Exposé at number 28 on my fantasy playlist, April 23rd, 1990. Getting into the mainstream on this one, Your Baby Never Looked Good in Blue, written by Diane Warren. Exposé, the group members Jeanette Horado, I believe is how you pronounce her last name, Ann Curlis, and Goya, either Joya or Goya, I'll pronounce it as Goya Bruno. They looked fabulous, absolutely fabulous. They had the look and scintillating sex appeal and dynamic vocals. And you got the drum machines going, you got the swirling keyboards, you got the sing along choruses. Boy, you got yourself some hit records. Now, they were not the original members, though. The whole notion of Exposé was the brainchild of a producer, DJ in Miami. His name was Louis Martinet. It's matinee with an R in it. So I think I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. Martinet teamed up with a couple of his partners who worked with a production company called Pantera. They assembled three women, and eventually they became Exposé and released the original version of Point of No Return in 1984. But when they started working on before they worked on their debut album, it's kind of confusing. They were either fired or quit. It depends on what source you're looking at. But either way, Louis Martinet, he put together another Exposé with the three women that I just mentioned to you, Jeanette, Ann, and Goya. The first album was an absolute charm. Come Go With Me. Their debut album just flew right off the bat. I mean, it's a home run. It's right out of the park. Come Go With Me went top 10. Point of No Return. I swooned over Point of No Return. That was Jeanette Horado. She nailed it. Such impassioned vocals. A chariot of fire of a vocalist. The desperation, summer of 1987. Top 10. Let Me Be the One, that was a top 10 in the fall of 87. Bruno did the lead vocals on that. And Seasons Change. Winter of 87 and 88. Written and produced by Louis Martinet. Second album, Let Me Be the One. Well, their second album, rather, What You Don't Know, sold over 500,000 copies, went gold. Tell Me Why went to number 9 on Billboard's Hot 100, and then this slow jam, When I Looked at Him, celestial harmonies. I mean, they sounded like angels. I mean, it's like if you're in bed with a stomach virus and I can't handle the hard stuff. I can't handle the upbeat music right now, so just sing me a slow one. And that's it. That's them singing that record, When I Looked at Him. Late summer, I think, or fall of 1989, or maybe around the summer of 89. And then we got Your Baby Never Looked Good in Blue, written by Diane Warren. Diane Warren was a big songwriter. She's still writing these days, but her popularity was basically in the 80s and 90s. The first song, if I remember correctly, that she wrote that became a hit was Solitaire by Laura Branigan. That was in 1983. Rhythm of the Night, she wrote that one for DeBarge. That was in 1985. That was a huge hit for them. And with Albert Hammond, she wrote Never Gonna Stop Us Now by the Starship, 1987, and it continued right into the 90s. Writing hit records for Celine Dion, Leanne Rimes, How Do I Live? She wrote that one. Aerosmith, I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. Did that get a Grammy? That might have. That was a huge record, 1998, 1999, written by Diane Warren. She wrote one of my favorite records back in the late 90s. It was Music of My Heart. Gloria Estefan and NSYNC together back in the fall of 1999. Brings back some fond memories. Recently, well, she wrote a song by Lady Gaga recently, and remember this video is being cut in 2018, but she wrote this amazing record called Stand Up for Something, which was covered by Andrea Day and Common, the rapper Common. Andrea Day's got an amazing voice. I mean, if you listen to this record, it's like listening to Errol, maybe somebody like Ella Fitzgerald, um, Aretha, possibly, maybe Whitney Houston back in the day. Well, anyway, I just found out yesterday she wrote that song, Diane Warren, Stand Up for Something. That should have been a massive hit across the board in America and in England. Should have been top 10. Now I lost my train of thought. Well, she wrote this song, Your Baby Never Looked Good in Blue. As a matter of fact, Diane Warren, she submitted 2 demos, 2 songs to Exposé when they were working on their second album. Your Baby Never Looked Good in Blue and I'll Never Get Over You Getting Over Me. And Clive Davis of Arista Records told Diane, Exposé can only do one song that you've only just one of those 2 songs that you submitted. Jeanette wanted to do I'll Never Get Over You Getting Over Me. She preferred that one. But Louis Martinet overruled her. I mean, after all, he's the producer. He's the guy who created this group, this whole concept. He preferred Your Baby Never Looked Good in Blue. So there you go. But it worked out. That Your Baby Never Looked Good in Blue went to number 17 on Billboard's Hot 100. But the other song, I'll Never Get Over You Getting Over Me, sounds like a country title. I see somebody, Alabama or Shania Twain, or maybe, oh gosh, I'm trying to think. Well, anyway, it's kind of a country sounding title. Clive Davis held on to I'll Never Get Over You Getting Over Me. He held on to it. And Diane Warren, to her credit, let him do it. Thus, Exposé got a chance to cover that song, to do that song that Diane Warren had written on their third album. And it was a hit single in 1992, 1993. Exposé, here's the thing about Exposé. They launched all these dance girl groups back in the late 80s, going into the early 90s. In the wake of Exposé, the Cover Girls. God, I love the Cover Girls. I've already mentioned them in another video. I swooned over the Cover Girls. Seduction, Sweet Sensation, and Company B, Fascination, and Full Circle in 1987 rather. Well, Exposé, Your Baby Never Looked Good in Blue, at number 28 on this fancy playlist of April 23rd, 1990.